As the shadows of the night began to darken on the white walls of the hospital, the nurse came slowly and said, "A son has been born." But the father stepped forward and turned away as soon as he saw his son, as if someone had placed a cup of poison in front of him. This is black," he shouted. "This can't be my child." The woman who had just won the battle of life and death and become a mother, the light of passion and joy in her eyes seemed to have suddenly gone out. "Whose child did you give birth to?" The husband's tone was like a thunderbolt. All that came out of the woman's lips was, "This is yours. God's trust." But she didn't believe him. And that moment became the most terrible moment of her life. After that moment, not only was a mother rejected by her husband, but an innocent soul was also deprived of the recognition of a father on the basis of color. And the story begins where most stories of pain end. Raindrops were hitting the hospital window, and in the silence of the room, only the soft cry of a newborn baby could be heard. The woman's face had turned yellow, there was no life in her body, but that first touch of motherhood had awakened in her heart. She was looking at her son, kissing his little hands, and the streams of tears from her eyes were not stopping. At that moment the door opened with a bang. The same person she considered her world entered. But there was no smile, no pride, no love on his face. Only intense hatred. "I thought my children would be like me. White, beautiful. But this? Who has it gotten to?" The woman hugged the baby to her chest, as if someone had tried to snatch a piece of her liver. "This is your son. A blessing from God." "Lies," she shouted. "There was no one like me in my generation. You have deceived me. You are a vile woman." The woman's eyes were moist. She kept cleaning, muttering, "I have never deceived you. I myself do not know why. But by God, this is your son." But the man had become blind, from color, from doubt, from the world. 3 days later, as soon as he left the hospital, he handed her the divorce papers. And not only that, but he handed the child to her and said, "This is not mine. Take it and get out. You are dead to me." Those words cut into the woman's soul like a knife. That day, the girl whose heart was a dream, who believed in love, stood on the street with only a piece of paper and a child. She was a woman with desolate eyes, soaked in the rain, now a mother, alone, helpless and nameless. When the mother knocked on the door of a refuge house, an elderly woman opened the door from inside. "I have no support, only this child and my breath." The old woman quietly opened the door and let the mother in. This was the first door she had knocked on since becoming a mother, hoping for some mercy. Months passed. That mother sometimes cleaned other people's houses, sometimes washed dishes in restaurants, and sometimes sold fruit on the roadside, but she endured the scorn of the whole world with a child in her arms. People would say, "This woman was the wife of a white husband, and yet she gave birth to a black child. It's crazy." And the woman remained silent, just holding the child to her chest. "Allah is my witness, I am innocent," she would say to herself. Meanwhile, the rich man, who had been seduced by his secretary's beautiful smile, had now started a new life. She had married the secretary, and everything seemed perfect from the outside. But there was something empty inside. A shadow, a nameless restlessness. "Maybe this was the biggest decision of my life," he would sometimes think, then shake his head. And the mother? She shed new tears, prayed new prayers, and endured new wounds every day as she put her son's tiny feet on the ground. At the end of this episode, the day comes when the child asks his mother, "Mom, didn't Dad like me?" The mother's lips tremble, but her eyes smile and say, "No, son, he just couldn't recognize you. But you are so precious that God gave you to me." That winter evening was different. The rain dripping from the roof of the old hut, and the milk pot on the stove in the corner, in which the mother had saved the last of the milk for her son. She herself had been starving all day, but she was boiling rice for her son. "Mom, everyone at school was laughing today." The child was sitting close to the mother, and there was a question in her eyes. "Why, son?" the mother asked, shaking the spoon, but her eyes were reading the son's face. They said my complexion is strange, and said that my father will never come to pick me up. The mother's hand shook. The spoon fell into the pot, and for a moment it was as if time had stopped. I fought them, mother. I said my mother is everything, I don't need a father. The mother held the child to her chest. She said nothing, just kept stroking his hair. Son, a child who lives by the prayers of his mother does not need the name of a father. But that night, the mother went to her room and started crying secretly. She had never cried for her child because of his dark complexion, nor for insults, but this phrase, "Father will never come to pick me up," pierced her heart. The mother remembered the moment when she was taken out of the hospital, holding the child in her arms, with a divorce certificate in her hand, and the man in the white coat, whom she called her husband, did not even look back. Time passed. The child began to stand apart from others at school. Questions were raised about his complexion, but he remained silent. He only repeated one phrase. My mother has said, "He who endures suffering becomes great." He sold newspapers with his mother every day, taught the little children in the evening, and himself read until late at night. Mother was the greatest strength in the world for him. And the child, whom his father had once said cannot be mine, was now on the journey to become mine everything. One day, a teacher in the neighborhood said to his mother, "Bibi, your son is very intelligent. He can get a scholarship." For the first time, a light shone on his mother's lips, like a bud opening in autumn. Can he really go forward? If you support him, he can go to heaven. The mother sold the small gold earrings in her ears, which she had received as a dowry at the time of marriage, and got her son admitted to a good school. After that, she herself started working as a part-time cleaner, sacrificing her sleep and her peace for every book, every copy, every pen that her son had. Little did the world know that a poor black child, abandoned by his father, had now become a determination, and behind this determination was a long story of the mother's silent sacrifices. The child who used to listen to taunts had now become the top student in his class. His teacher would say, "There is something special about him. This child will go ahead and make a name for himself." But the child only remembered one sentence, which his mother had said. Allah belongs to everyone, but he is closer to orphans. And that child? He would pray to Allah every night. "Oh Allah, never make my mother sad." It was the first day of university. The mother ironed her son's shirt herself. The shoes were old but clean, the hair neatly combed. The son stood in front of the mirror, and the mother stood behind him, smiling. "Mom, I had never even dreamed of university." "Son, if your mother's prayers are true, then even dreams come true." The young man turned around as he left the door, kissed his mother on the forehead, and said, "One day I will give you everything that every rich woman in the world has. But with respect." The university environment was new. Here, color, race, and background did not matter. Here only the mind spoke, talent resonated. The child who had once been called black was now becoming the pride of the university. The lecturers, the professors, all had recognized his morals, his knowledge, and his literature. One day, at a big university seminar, he was invited by an international business company. "Young people like you are our future." He also got a scholarship, an internship, and a new flat with his mother. But the real twist in the story came when one day he entered the company's board meeting, and sitting at the other end of the table in front of him was the man who was his father. As soon as their eyes met, the moment seemed to stop. "Excuse me. You are Mr. Rehan White, right?" "Yes." "Interesting. I'm Daniel White. Your son." The room was silent. The father's eyes widened. He got up from his chair and started to take steps back. "No. That's not possible. This is." "Yes, I am the one you didn't consider yours based on color. The one you gave to a mother with a divorce and left on the street." All eyes were fixed on the father, who once wore a crown of pride. I have not come here today to mention my success, but only to tell you that no power, no color, no money in the world can deprive the one whom Allah wants to honor. My mother did not question my color, she trusted my dream. And you rejected us just by looking at my color. But today, your son is known by the name of the mother you left. Tears started flowing from the father's eyes, but it was too late now. Will you forgive me? Rayhan said in a trembling voice. What can I tell you? I grew up in my mother's arms. My mother taught me that forgiving is greatness. But I will forgive you only on one condition. When you go to my mother in front of everyone and apologize. And that time came. A rich man, a businessman of false arrogance, a white-skinned pride, came to the feet of this mother and soaked the ground with his eyes, who had once left her with a divorce certificate and black insults. The mother only said, I have not asked you for anything, neither revenge nor complaint. But look, the one you left on the street. Today he stands proudly before you. The morning light had descended on this room of the hut as if in answer to an old prayer. The hut, once a haven of leaky roofs and cold nights, had now become a resting place adorned with flowers, with white curtains. The mother sat silently in a white dress, with a dupatta covering her hair. The Holy Quran was placed in front of her, and her son's marriage certificate in her hands. Mother, today is the day when I will see your dreams come true. No, son. Today is the day when Allah has rewarded me for my sacrifice. The patience of a prophet-like mother in my embrace. And today my son's marriage, with honor, with pride. The marriage ceremony was neither grand nor expensive, but every moment was enveloped in light. The bride arrived, a soft-hearted, simple-minded and dark-skinned girl. The same color, which was a flaw in the eyes of the world, had today become the most beautiful symbol of love. The marriage officer said, Do you accept this marriage? I accept 3 times. There was strength in Daniel's voice, love too, and a reflection of his mother. Tears were flowing from his mother's eyes, but now they were not of sorrow, but tears of gratitude, prostration and peace. After the marriage, Daniel bowed down at his mother's feet in front of everyone. Mother, today I want everyone to know that if I am anything, it is only in exchange for your patience, your prayers, and your loneliness. This wealth, this honor, this family. Everything is yours. I want you not to remain just a relation in my house, but to be the foundation of this house. Every eye present in the gathering was moist. The man who had once been this mother's husband was now sitting in the corner, just watching. He had known, he had lost, and this mother had won. The mother held her son's hands and said, Daniel, son, now you live your life, but never judge someone by their color, because the Lord does not see color. He sees the heart. And that night, that marriage, that mother's embrace, everything turned into a light that contained only respect, love, and that lesson, which must be taught to every person, that color is never a measure of character. A person's true color is their heart. In the morning, as the sunlight was streaming in through the window, Mother was busy praying after finishing her prayers. Daniel entered the room silently, a beautiful blue file in his hand, and the same humility on his face, that only a son has for his mother in his heart. Mother! Mother opened her eyes and smiled and said, Yes, son. Daniel opened the file and took out a page and placed it in front of her. What is this? Mother asked in surprise. Mother, this is the interpretation of the dream you kept in my eyes. This is the registration of Omno Welfare Institute, which is named after you. Mother's eyes became moist. This institution is for all those women who were rejected on the basis of divorce, poverty, or color, and for those children who did not have a father's name, but only the shadow of their mother's prayers. This institution is for those who society calls weak, but who are actually the strongest. Daniel rested his head in his mother's palms. Mom, I want the world to know that if a mother can raise a black child, then she is greater than any nation, any race, any prejudice. And if a mother is exiled just because her child is not white, then that world is the ugliest, what we call beauty. The institute was inaugurated at a grand ceremony. TV, newspapers, social media, they all covered it. The banner read, Omna Welfare Institute. Every color, every mother's name. The mother, who once made a living by washing children's clothes and washing dishes, had become the light of thousands of women today. A reporter asked the mother, "How do you feel today the world is calling you Mother of the Nation?" The mother simply said, "All this is the reward of this child whose father once rejected him as black. But Allah made him my son and showed the world that color does not determine a person's status. Rather, the mother's lap teaches him the way to heaven." After that day, hundreds of women whose husbands had left them, whose children were black, weak, nameless, come to that institution and get education, respect, and the courage to live. Daniel called every mother Ami, and every child would hug him, calling him brother. One day, his father sneaked out of the institution and saw the board on which it was written, "This institution is for those who were abandoned by their fathers, but never left alone by their mother." Tears began to flow from the father's eyes. But now these tears were not of honor, only of regret. The bright streets of New York, the high walls of the United Nations building, and inside it, representatives of hundreds of countries, their eyes fixed on the stage. Today's speaker was not a politician, an ambassador or a president, but a simple-hearted, humble-spoken, and wheat-skinned young man, whom the world had come to know as Daniel Amin White. The same child, who had never been a victim of racial slurs, whom his father did not accept, whom his mother took in her arms and saved from every wound of life. Today, that child's voice was going to echo in the United Nations Hall. "Ladies and gentlemen," the hall fell silent. "I am representing the child whom the world rejected solely on the basis of his color. And I have come as the voice of the mother who showed the world that character, patience, and sacrifice need no race, no color, no border." That moment, when he took out an old handkerchief of his mother's from his pocket, which she had given him on the first day of school as a child, and placed it in front of the mic. "This is the foundation of my dream. This is my identity. This is my mother's prayer." His speech was not only eye-watering, but also taking every heart to a place where humanity, the greatness of a mother, and self-respect become one. The world must change the scales of color, race, and caste, because the child who is rejected simply because he is black, that same child can one day give light to the world. Applause began to ring out on stage. Some ambassadors had tears in their eyes. Some were closing their notes with hands that trembled like a mother's letter. That evening, the UN Secretary-General announced, "The Omna Welfare Institute is declared the central institution of the Global Mother and Child Fellowship. Such institutions will now be opened in every country of the world where mothers and children will be considered equal regardless of color, race, or religion." And that night, when Daniel showed his mother that moment on a video call, the mother could only say, "Son, today your color is shining brighter than the light of Allah. And I never asked the Lord for gold, palaces, or wealth. I only prayed that my son would one day change the hearts of people. And today you did it." That night was unusually quiet. Daniel returned from a long journey after many days. He was holding a World Award trophy in his hand, which was engraved, "For the mother who changed the world with love." As soon as he reached the door of the apartment, a sense of unease filled his heart. Mother often stood at the door before he came, smiling, praying, and hugging him, saying, "You came, my world came." But today the door was closed, and there was such a silence inside that it cut through the words. "Mother." Her voice echoed in the room. Mother was lying on the bed, the same light on her face, the same peace, but her eyes were closed. One hand was placed on the Holy Quran beside her, and the other hand on Daniel's picture. Daniel touched his mother's face. "Mom, I've come. Open your eyes. Look, your son has brought your name to the whole world. Mom, I promised you. I have kept my promise. But the mother was silent. The Lord had called him to himself, to that place where mothers who are patient are given a throne, and are given that honor that has no worldly standard. Daniel began to cry bitterly. The mother whose prayers he had fought with all his life. Today that mother herself was silent. But even in her silence, thousands of words were hidden for Daniel. A few hours later, as the mother's funeral procession left the mosque, there were not just one or two people behind her, but thousands of women, children, orphans, the poor, and international representatives, whose lives had been changed because of that mother's son. And that son had laid everything at his mother's feet. After the funeral, Daniel stood in front of everyone and said, "This is not my mother. This is the mother of our generations." Sometimes the world called her poor, sometimes divorced, sometimes black. But it was the mother who taught me. Whom the world rejects, Allah chooses. I found life in the shadow of my mother. And today, when she is no more, every moment of my life is dedicated to her mission. My mother is not dead. She is now the mother of every child abandoned by their father, and the prayer of every woman rejected by the world. It had been 3 months since his mother was buried. Daniel's office, his speeches around the world, the magazine covers of his achievements, all were the same. But Daniel had changed. He gave up all worldly pursuits. He no longer appeared on any media, nor in any award show, nor on any stage. Just simple clothes, a simple lifestyle, and day and night at the Amna Welfare Institute. In the morning he himself taught children. In the afternoon he sat with poor mothers. And at night he listened to the testimonies of women whom the world divorced, who were abandoned because of their skin color, whose children were not given names. One day a colleague at the institute said, "Daniel, the world should hear your voice again. Your silence is a loss for all those who drew inspiration from you." Daniel smiled quietly and said, "I will speak, but for the last time." Then one day media, institutions, and social activists from around the world were invited to the grounds of the Amna Institute, where Daniel was to give his last speech. As he walked on stage, Daniel took off his shoes and stood barefoot. My mother walked barefoot on the ground, and I want my last speech to be on the same ground where the fragrance of her sacrifices lingers. The hall was silent. I was the child the world rejected just on the basis of color. I was the son the father abandoned. But I was the prayer of the mother the world forgot. I found everything. But without mother, everything is empty. Today I declare that I give all my property, all my fame, all my worldly recognition, to the Amna Institute. The rest of my life is for those who were ignored, whom the world considered inferior on the basis of color, race, divorce, or poverty. My mother used to say, "A man is one who makes his mother's silence the language of the world." And today I have come to do just that. The speech ended. Thousands of people stood up. Some prayed while crying. Some called him the Messiah of souls. Some said, "This man was mother's dream, and the dream is now alive." And that night, when Daniel was sitting alone on the roof of the institute, looking up at the sky, he said, "Mother, I've come, giving you everything you never asked for. I just prayed for." A cool breeze blew, as if Mother's spirit was caressing his hair. It was a winter night. The lights at Amna Institute were lower than usual. Daniel had been silent all day today. He didn't talk to any child, nor to any mother. He just sat on an old wooden chair and looked at the sky, as if someone was calling him, as if he was preparing to meet someone. Late at night, he wrote a letter, which was found stuck to the glass inside the main entrance of the institute. "In the name of my mother, Ummi, I am coming. I have said everything, done everything. Now only that moment remains, when I will rest my head at your feet and attain that peace, for which all the achievements of the world are not enough. If Allah accepts, then perhaps you will place your hand on my forehead again. Permit me, My last greeting. Denial. The next morning the same chair. Denial's closed eyes. A smile on his lips. And in his hand, the same old white sheet of his mother, which he had worn as a child. The doctors came, people called out. But he was gone. The news of his death spread like wildfire. TV, newspapers, international organizations, all said the same word. The son of every mother is gone. Daniel's funeral was attended by representatives from every corner of the world. Thousands of orphan children, millions of women and mothers, who considered Daniel not just a person, but a shadow, a prayer, and a revolution. At the graveside, his old friend, who had become a great scholar today, was saying, this was the son his father rejected on the basis of color, and Allah made him the heir of the hearts of the world. This was the son of the mother, who raised him in prostrations. And today he has become the acceptance of every prostration in the world. A stone was placed on Daniel's grave. Plain, colorless, but it was written, this is he who sought paradise at his mother's feet, and became paradise himself. It was the first Friday at Denial's grave. People had started lining up since morning. Some women who had once taken refuge in the Amna Institute after divorce. Today their children were studying in universities on scholarships. Some orphans who once slept hungry. Today they had become teachers themselves in Denial's institution. There was the same sentence on every tongue. He left. But we were taught to live. A 12-year-old boy stood near the grave. Wheatish complexion, dark eyes, and a letter in his hand. He was silently touching the gravestone, as if he wanted to say something. An elder standing nearby asked, son, who are you? The boy raised his eyes and said, my name is Rayhan. I am Denial's son. Silence fell. You? Denial's son? Yes, my mother told me after he died. Ami said, Daniel never left you. He just hid you from the world, because you were a memory of the pain that gave birth to him. The institute administrators were amazed. The boy looked not like Daniel's son, but like his shadow. Rayhan slowly sat down near the grave and took out the letter, and began to read it out loud. Abu, I never met you, but I slept listening to your voice every day. Mom used to tell me that you defeated color, pain, and the world, and allowed me to become everything I wanted to be. Abu, I am here, and I will not let your place be empty. All the workers, students, and women of the institute began to gather around Rayhan. Rayhan's son, now you are the one we will consider Daniel. Rayhan bowed his head. No, I am not Denial. I am Rayhan, who is going to follow in the footsteps of Denial, whom the world rejected on the basis of color, and Allah made him the mirror of the world. On the same day, the Institute's Central Assembly announced, Denial Amin Institute's new vision director, Rayhan Denial. Rayhan said in his first day's speech, I am young, a learner, but if I have Denial's blood in my veins, and my mother raised me with truth, then no power in the world can stop me. I want to tell the children, Father's name is not enough. The real power is Mother's prayer, and fulfilling the Father's purpose. It was the first day that Rayhan put on his uniform, slung his bag over his shoulder, and stepped into the school of Amna Institute. The school whose walls were adorned with pictures, sayings, and services of his father Denial. The teachers, staff, and even the little children would stop when they saw him. But there was no pride in Rayhan's eyes. Only responsibility. As soon as he entered the class, all the children looked at each other. Isn't this the same one? Denial's son. Some jealousy, some surprise, some respect. But Rayhan just opened his book and started reading silently. When the teacher asked the first question, everyone thought he might be nervous right now. But there was a strange confidence in his voice, as if knowledge had been inherited. Rayhan, how do you know all this? The teacher asked with a smile. Sir, Mother has taught me that if I am Daniel's son, then I must also be a brother to all the children who have none. Gradually, his identity in school ceased to be only that of Daniel's son. But he became Rayhan, himself an example, a guide, and a friend. Every Friday, he would sit with the orphan children, telling them stories. That there was a time when Daniel was rejected by the world on the basis of his color. But he won the world over with his mother's prayers. One day, a boy asked in the school assembly, "Rayhan, if you have everything, why do you live so simply?" Rayhan simply said, "Because my father saw greatness in simplicity. And my mother taught me that real honor lies in bowing down to the ground, not in being tall." Meanwhile, some old families, who had once looked down on denial, started to come to the institute, impressed by Rayhan's fame and character. And one day, the same boy whose grandfather had once taunted denial, shaking hands with Rayhan, he said, "Not your color. Your light is greater than ours." Rayhan smiled and said, "Light does not come from inheritance. It comes from sacrifice." Rayhan was now 16 years old. The look of denial on his face, the dignity of his mother in his words, and a war in his heart, which he fought silently every day. The school had changed. Now he was studying in an international high school, where the poison of children from big families, modern thinking, and class distinctions were very clear. From the first day, a few boys started making sarcastic remarks about his complexion, simplicity, and social background. "Oh, you're the one who came from a charity. Dude, this one will teach us how to earn respect. Like his father was an angel." Rayhan would smile every time. Never argue, never complain. But a determination began to shine in his silence. One day, the class had to give a speech on the topic of personal identity. When Rayhan came on stage, silence fell in the hall. "My name is Rayhan Denial. My complexion is dark. My mother raised me by washing dishes. And my father is the one who taught the world that the real white color is that of the intention, not the skin. I come from a charity organization. But my dreams are pure. I wear simple clothes. But my character is like gold. I stand in front of you on the stage. But my roots are soaked with the tears of a mother." Some people in the class were embarrassed. Some were breathless. And some, for the first time, they began to recognize someone's greatness beyond color. That same day, someone wrote "Black Poton" rudely about Rayhan on the school wall. Everyone thought he would make a fuss. But Rayhan came the next day with a large piece of paper stuck on the board. The first day of university. A vast campus, tall buildings, speaking faces, free thoughts. Rayhan was now in an environment where ideas, relationships, and personalities are tested along with knowledge. He looked very different. Simple clothes, a bag full of books, and a downcast gaze. But when he spoke, it was as if time stopped. In the very first class, the professor said a sentence. "The student who will be the most truthful and extraordinary here today. I will make him the representative of the university's Human Rights Forum." All eyes turned in one direction, towards Rayhan. A few days later, an event was held on campus. The topic was modern society and color discrimination. When Rayhan was handed the microphone, silence fell in the hall. "I want to be recognized not by color, but by intention. I am the son of that mother, whom the world isolated as black. But she raised me as if I were a ray of light. My appearance may not impress you, but if my words touch your heart, then maybe we will take a step forward on the path of becoming human." After the speech, the entire hall stood up. Applause, whistles, and tears in the eyes. There was also a girl there, Leah, the daughter of a major American politician, herself an intelligent and dignified student, who was looking at Rayhan sitting in the corner of the stage. For a few moments, without blinking. The next day in the library, Elia came to Rayhan and spoke to him for the first time. "Your speech changed my heart. I used to think that color was only a standard of beauty, but you showed that real beauty is of character." Rayhan remained silent, just smiling. Can I know you? Elia said softly. Rayhan replied. To know me, I will first have to understand my mother's prayer. And this is not something that everyone can do. Elia smiled at this answer. But something else had awakened in her heart. Everyone in the university now knew Rayhan. But every fame has a price. Some people who could not stand it started conspiring against him. He is hungry for charitable fame. He just wants people's sympathy. He is just selling his father's story. One day, someone wrote derogatory words about his mother on the university notice board. Rayhan stood there and watched. Then wrote just one sentence under the board in front of all the students. Those who throw mud at the mother in whose lap heaven is placed are dirtying their own hands, not the mother. This sentence shook the entire campus. The professors, the students, and Elijah all stared at him. Not just with sympathy now, with pride. The university holidays were going on. Rayhan often went to the institute these days, taught the children, and spent time with his mother in the evenings. One day, Elia called him. Rayhan, my father wants to meet you. Rayhan was shocked. Does he know everything? I have told him everything. Rayhan took a deep breath and said, Okay, but I will come there with honor. And I will return with the same honor. The next evening, Rayhan entered a luxurious bungalow in Washington with Elia. Sitting in front was a famous former U.S. senator. Powerful, serious, and a representative of white pride. So you are him? The son of the founder of the Amna Institute. Rayhan said softly. Yes, and the son of that mother too. Who, while polishing my shoes, took me to the university. The senator was silent for a moment, then said, My daughter is very serious about you. But you know what? Your skin, your background, your name. All of this could become a question mark for my family's politics. Rayhan lowered his eyes, then raised them and said, Sir, I am not a question mark. I am an answer, which has been carved by the prayer of a mother whom the world divorced, and Allah honored. I did not come here for Elia, but with my truth. If you are ashamed of my color, my mother, and my past, then I do not want a relationship. That requires me to hide my identity. Tears welled up in Elia's eyes. His father fell silent. As Rayhan turned to leave, the senator's voice came. Wait. Rayhan, stop. If you have the courage to stand up and tell your truth in front of a man like me, then maybe you are the one who can take care of my daughter. But remember, you have to win this relationship. From time, from the world, and from myself. Rayhan smiled and said, Sir, I have lost everything in life, except for one thing. My mother's prayers. And the one who has them. Nothing in the world can defeat him. In one of the institute's halls, Elia was sitting with the children, distributing toys to them. Rayhan was watching her from a distance. For the first time she seemed so at peace. Elia turned around and said, Rayhan, I want you to announce our relationship to everyone. Rayhan was silent for a moment. Then she said slowly, Ready. Because this world will neither accept us easily, nor will it watch us silently. The next day, there was an annual ceremony on the university stage. Rayhan was to receive the Best Humanitarian Youth Leader Award. At the end of the ceremony, Elia took the mic, and in front of everyone, holding Rayhan's hand, said, This is not just a leader. He is my companion, and I want to spend my life with him. Silence fell in the hall. Some applause, some surprise, and some angry looks. The next day, social media erupted in an uproar. Senator's daughter with a black boy. So much courage from a charity guy. Are politics and decency now starting to leave the streets? An online campaign against Rayhan began. Fake news, racist posts, even attempts to defame the institute began. Some of the institute's benefactors pressured. Rayhan, this relationship is damaging your reputation and the institute. Leave it. Rayhan only gave one answer. If my love is a sign of hatred for someone, then the problem is not in love, but in the quality of hatred. Elia was also warned by her father. This world will break us, Elia said. If you doubt Rayhan's character, then I regret my upbringing. Rayhan and Elia decided that they would not remain silent, but would launch an awareness campaign against all this. Look at the heart, not the color. The campaign became famous all over the world. Rayhan's interviews, lectures, and the passion of a new generation. Everything began to change. But behind every struggle there is a price. And that price was still to be paid. One night, a stone was thrown at the institute's door. And a letter was hung. If you don't end this relationship, your past will be exposed to the world. Rayhan took the letter in his hand, read it, smiled, then tore it up in front of the children and threw it away. I am the son, whom the father rejected because of color, and the world rejected because of love again. But I neither bowed then, nor will I bow now. It was a simple mosque, in a quiet corner of the city, where there was no wealth, just the shadow of truth. No decorated doors and walls for the wedding. No flash of cameras. Just a Quran, 2 witnesses. And the same white sheet that had been used in the shroud of Rayhan's mother. Rayhan spread the same sheet on his wedding table. The wedding officiant asked, Rayhan denial. Do you accept Elia? Rayhan said in a strong voice. I accept her the way. Just as my mother accepted my dark complexion without complaint. Tears were flowing from Elia's eyes. Elijah. Do you accept Elia? I accept her with her color, her pain, her truth. And I am ready to fight the world. The first day of university. A vast campus, tall buildings, speaking faces, free thoughts. Rayhan was now in an environment where ideas, relationships, and personalities are tested along with knowledge. He looked very different. Simple clothes, a bag full of books, and a downcast gaze. But when he spoke, it was as if time stopped. In the very first class, the professor said a sentence. The student who will be the most truthful and extraordinary here today. I will make him the representative of the university's Human Rights Forum. All eyes turned in one direction, towards Rayhan. A few days later, an event was held on campus. The topic was modern society and color discrimination. When Rayhan was handed the microphone, silence fell in the hall. I want to be recognized not by color, but by intention. I am the son of that mother, whom the world isolated as black. But she raised me as if I were a ray of light. My appearance may not impress you, but if my words touch your heart, then maybe we will take a step forward on the path of becoming human. After the speech, the entire hall stood up. Applause, whistles, and tears in the eyes. There was also a girl there, Leah, the daughter of a major American politician, herself an intelligent and dignified student, who was looking at Rayhan sitting in the corner of the stage. For a few moments, without blinking. The next day in the library, Elia came to Rayhan and spoke to him for the first time. Your speech changed my heart. I used to think that color was only a standard of beauty, but you showed that real beauty is of character. Rayhan remained silent, just smiling. Can I know you? Elia said softly. Rayhan replied. To know me, I will first have to understand my mother's prayer. And this is not something that everyone can do. Elia smiled at this answer. But something else had awakened in her heart. Everyone in the university now knew Rayhan. But every fame has a price. Some people who could not stand it started conspiring against him. He is hungry for charitable fame. He just wants people's sympathy. He is just selling his father's story. One day, someone wrote derogatory words about his mother on the university notice board. Rayhan stood there and watched, then wrote just one sentence under the board in front of all the students. Those who throw mud at the mother in whose lap heaven is placed are dirtying their own hands, not the mother. This sentence shook the entire campus. The professors, the students, and Elijah all stared at him. Not just with sympathy now, with pride. The university holidays were going on. Rayhan often went to the institute these days, taught the children, and spent time with his mother in the evenings. One day, Elia called him. Rayhan, my father wants to meet you. Rayhan was shocked. Does he know everything? I have told him everything. Rayhan took a deep breath and said, Okay, but I will come there with honor. And I will return with the same honor. The next evening, Rayhan entered a luxurious bungalow in Washington with Elia. Sitting in front was a famous former U.S. senator. Powerful, serious, and a representative of white pride. So you are him. The son of the founder of the Amna Institute. Rayhan said softly. Yes, and the son of that mother too. Who, while polishing my shoes, took me to the university. The senator was silent for a moment, then said, My daughter is very serious about you. But you know what? Your skin, your background, your name. All of this could become a question mark for my family's politics. Rayhan lowered his eyes, then raised them and said, Sir, I am not a question mark. I am an answer, which has been carved by the prayer of a mother whom the world divorced. And Allah honored. I did not come here for Elia, but with my truth. If you are ashamed of my color, my mother, and my past, then I do not want a relationship. That requires me to hide my identity. Tears welled up in Elia's eyes. His father fell silent. As Rayhan turned to leave, the senator's voice came. Wait. Rayhan, stop. If you have the courage to stand up and tell your truth in front of a man like me, then maybe you are the one who can take care of my daughter. But remember, you have to win this relationship. From time, from the world, and from myself. Rayhan smiled and said, Sir, I have lost everything in life, except for one thing. My mother's prayers. And the one who has them. Nothing in the world can defeat him. In one of the institute's halls, Elia was sitting with the children, distributing toys to them. Rayhan was watching her from a distance. For the first time she seemed so at peace. Elia turned around and said, Rayhan, I want you to announce our relationship to everyone. Rayhan was silent for a moment. Then she said slowly, Ready. Because this world will neither accept us easily, nor will it watch us silently. The next day, there was an annual ceremony on the university stage. Rayhan was to receive the Best Humanitarian Youth Leader Award. At the end of the ceremony, Elia took the mic, and in front of everyone, holding Rayhan's hand, said, This is not just a leader. He is my companion, and I want to spend my life with him. Silence fell in the hall. Some applause, some surprise, and some angry looks. The next day, social media erupted in an uproar. Senator's daughter with a black boy. So much courage from a charity guy. Are politics and decency now starting to leave the streets? An online campaign against Rayhan began. Fake news, racist posts, even attempts to defame the institute began. Some of the institute's benefactors pressured Rayhan, this relationship is damaging your reputation and the institute. Leave it. Rayhan only gave one answer. If my love is a sign of hatred for someone, then the problem is not in love, but in the quality of hatred. Elia was also warned by her father. This world will break us. Elia said, If you doubt Rayhan's character, then I regret my upbringing. Rayhan and Elia decided that they would not remain silent, but would launch an awareness campaign against all this. Look at the heart, not the color. The campaign became famous all over the world. Rayhan's interviews, lectures, and the passion of a new generation. Everything began to change. But behind every struggle there is a price. And that price was still to be paid. One night, a stone was thrown at the institute's door. And a letter was hung. If you don't end this relationship, your past will be exposed to the world. Rayhan took the letter in his hand. Read it, smiled. then tore it up in front of the children and threw it away. I am the son, whom the father rejected because of color, and the world rejected because of love again. But I neither bowed then, nor will I bow now. It was a simple mosque, in a quiet corner of the city, where there was no wealth, just the shadow of truth. No decorated doors and walls for the wedding, no flash of cameras, just a Quran, 2 witnesses, and the same white sheet that had been used in the shroud of Rayhan's mother. Rayhan spread the same sheet on his wedding table. The wedding officiant asked, Rayhan denial. Do you accept Aliyah? Rayhan said in a strong voice, I accept her the way, just as my mother accepted my dark complexion without complaint. Tears were flowing from Aliyah's eyes. Elijah, do you accept Aliyah? I accept her with her color, her pain, her truth, and I am ready to fight the world. The sound of Allahu Akbar echoed, and a light rain began to fall in the sky. The two held each other's hands, and read the inscription written by the mother on the door of the mosque. What Allah has joined together, no distance in the world can separate them. But this night of joy turned into a dangerous message in the morning. The next morning, the media carried breaking news. Senator Archie Blunt has filed a lawsuit against his daughter Elijah, claiming that his daughter was seduced by the son of a Muslim, non-white, and political opponent. The senator says that this marriage was unconstitutional and forced. In the next moment, demonstrations began outside the institute. Rayhan is a traitor. This marriage is a conspiracy, a stain on the dignity of America. Banners, slogans, and stones. Many of the institute's funders terminated their contracts. Rayhan was summoned to court. Elijah held Rayhan's hand and said, If you back down, then this world will win. Rayhan said, I promised in my mother's prayers that I would change the world with love, and I will keep this promise till my last breath. The day of the court appearance came. The judge asked, Rayhan, you are accused of using a weak woman in the name of religion, love, and compassion. What do you say? Rayhan stood silent. Then he took out his mother's old letter from his pocket, which he had kept all his life. Sir, if my color is a crime, then I am a criminal. If my love is rebellion, then I am a rebel. And if my mother's prayers are less than a law, then I shall be punished. But if a man's intention, his actions, and his sacrifice are the standards of truth, then I am free, and my marriage is my right. The courtroom fell silent. Elijah's voice echoed, I have married him of my own free will, and if anyone has any objection, then he should fight with his conscience, not with my life. It was the day of the verdict in court. The courtroom was packed with people. On one side was Senator Archie Blunt, whose eyes were filled with anger and ego. On the other side were Rayhan and Elia, quiet, simple, but with a storm in their hearts. The judge picked up the papers. This court has come to the conclusion that the marriage was not forced but by mutual consent. But public reaction, political pressure, and to protect the reputation of both families. The court recommends that the parties remain separate for some time, and this decision be heard again in the light of a transparent truth and more evidence. Rayhan looked into the judge's eyes, then said softly, So is the crime of love, now committed on identity. She was immediately asked to leave the court quietly. Outside, news was coming of an attack on the institute. Some properties were burned. Funding had been completely stopped. The staff was scared. Many people left their jobs. Rayhan was sitting on his mother's grave. It was raining, and he was saying, Ami, I didn't come to lose. But if I have to sacrifice my love to save your legacy, then I will do that too. That same night, Elia came to the institute and hugged Rayhan. If you leave me, then the world will think we were weak. Rayhan said, No. The world will think we were great, who thought above ourselves. He covered Elia with a white sheet. the same one his mother had once worn. We leave each other for Allah, so that we can save those in the world who have neither a relationship nor a voice. Elia was crying but also smiling. If we ever meet again, then this time the world will not be our enemy. It will be martyrdom. The next day, the news channels, social media, and newspapers all carried the same news. Rayhan and Elia's marriage is legal but temporary. Rayhan denial sacrificed his love for the nation, the institution, and humanity. People were silent. Those who used to throw stones earlier now stood in front of the institute's door with their eyes downcast. The walls of the institute had been repaired, but hearts were still scarred with wounds. Rayhan spent his mornings with the children, feeding them breakfast, reminding them of their lessons, and nurturing their little dreams. Then came the time when a new class enrolled. Most of the children were orphans, sons of divorced women, and those who had been rejected on the basis of color, language, or religion. Rayhan asked everyone on the first day of class, "Why have you come here?" One child replied, "We have come because we have the same pain that is on your face but not on your tongue." Rayhan's eyes welled up. "Then from today, I will not be your brother. I will be your shadow, who will take care of you when the world scorns you." Life returned to the institute again. The old funding also started to return. International organizations began to reconnect. The world, which had once considered Rayhan's love a crime, now began to consider his silence as a virtue. But one afternoon, while Rayhan was playing with the children, a worker came running. "Sir, this letter has come from America, in the name of Elia." Rayhan's heart began to beat. She took the letter in her hand, looked up at the sky, and went into a room alone and started reading. "Rayhan, when you sent me away, I was broken, but then I remembered you sacrificed yourself for your mother. So why can't I? I left the court, left politics, left America. I now live with women who are looking for a safe haven. I am writing the stories that no one ever wanted to hear. I didn't leave you. I just wanted the world to save your place. If you ever want to see me again, I am there. Where you once placed the institute stone in my hand, I sit in that place every day, in silence. Ilya ***. Rayhan closed the letter, closed her eyes, and only one word came out of her heart. Allah. Is this the time is to live again? That night, Rayhan came to the small hall of the institute, standing in front of the children, teachers, and staff. "I lost a lot, but what I found was much more precious than that. I lost my mother, but her prayers remained. I lost my father's shadow, but I found character. I left love, but I found the pride of sacrifice. And now, maybe my love is calling me back." The children asked, "Sir, will you go back?" Rayhan smiled and said, "Yes, but not alone. I will take all of your love, all of your prayers and your stories, so that I can tell the world what is nurtured by a mother's prayers. No storm can destroy it." That old park bench, the same one where Rayhan first gifted Elia the Amna Institute stone. Rayhan takes a slow step. Elia is still sitting wearing the same white sheet. Her eyes are not the old ones. There is maturity, there is light, there is waiting. Rayhan goes and sits near her. Without saying anything, both of them just listen to each other's silence for a moment. Elia said slowly, "I used to come here every day, just to see if you haven't lost yourself." Rayhan's voice was heavy. "I left you, but I never stopped living for you." Elia extended her hand. "Then let's go. Show the world that truth never gives up. And the color of sacrifices shines not with lineage, but with prayer." A few months later, at the United Nations General Assembly in New York, Rayhan and Ilya were being awarded the Global Human Dignity Award. The same young man, who was rejected by taunts in his childhood, by politics in his youth, and by the world in his love, was standing before world leaders today. Rayhan came to the microphone and said, "I am the child whose father rejected him because of his skin color. I am the son whose mother secretly nurtured him in prayers. I am the young man who bought solitude in exchange for love. And I am the human being who responded to every taunt with character. If you are all sitting in front of me today, then these are not my words. The power of my mother's tears." Then Elijah came forward. "I am the daughter of the senator who took me out of my family. But I built the biggest family in my life. The ones the world calls orphans, divorcees, blacks, weak. We call them light." Applause. A standing ovation. And thousands of hands raised to the sky. Rayhan came down from the stage and held Elijah's hand, and said, "Now we are going back. But not just ours. To change everyone's world." A child is writing something on the wall of the institute. In white paint in big letters. This is a place where hearts are weighed, not colors. Where people like Daniel, Amna, Rayhan and Elia teach us how to be human. It begins with every mother, who is alone, but with prayer. It continues with every child, who the world calls different, but Allah chosen. Rayhan lives in every heart that sees beyond color.